Hey guys, it's Emily Schaller, and you're watching the Rock CF Boltcast. Before we get started, there's a few things we need to go over. First off, nothing on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Medical advice should only come from your doctor. Views expressed on this podcast are solely opinions of the guest and not necessarily opinions of myself or the Rock CF Foundation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode of the Rock CF Boltcast.
This episode of the Rock CF Boltcast is sponsored by Vertex Pharmaceuticals.
My name is Megan Barlow. I was diagnosed in 1996 when I was 5 years old. Started into the world of, going to CF clinic, got into sports right away. That was a big recommendation from my doctor. He was like, the best thing, you can do for her to my parents was get her into sports, get her moving, keep her exercising. That's like the most important thing you could do. And so obviously that always stuck with me. I played 3 different sports in high school, so practices 6 days a week really kept me moving. But it wasn't until college where I really had to kind of shift and work out for myself. I didn't really have as much of that routine and coaches forcing me to do it. So that was when I started running more on my own. I really didn't do much of that until then. And I also found ultimate frisbee at that time because I was just kind of over all of my high school sports. Wanted to do something new, found a great group of friends doing it, and it gave me an excuse to run while still playing a sport.
And in 96, your doctor had the hindsight about exercise. So when I was diagnosed, it was 83 about, when I was just under 2, and it's just like, all right, go love your kid. It's not gonna be great. My parents kept me active as a kid, which was super helpful and why I was so healthy. But the fact that your parents were told that and they just hammered it in right away is so awesome. Like, that's super impressive.
Yeah, they really, I don't really remember it, obviously, the fact that they said that, but, I know I was doing soccer at the age of 5. That wasn't really my thing. Then I got into basketball, which is definitely something our family all does a lot of. We have a ton of basketball players. And then within the first week of college, I stumbled upon the frisbee team. They asked people to come out for the team, and then the rest was history.
That's so cool. Like we were talking before, in Michigan, is there a frisbee, ultimate frisbee? Yeah, it's everywhere, but if you don't know about it, you don't know. So it was just you going to school. What college? Where'd you go?
I went to the College of New Jersey. TCNJ, was Trenton State. It's had a lot of names.
I like that. The Garden State University, right?
Probably was one of their names at some point.
When did that moment click for you, that exercise? You were just hammering it out, playing 3 sports a year, 4 sports. When were you like, oh, this is good for my lungs? I
think it probably clicked more once I got to college, because again, I was kind of responsible for it on my own, and it was not really until college that I had any real kind of episodes with my lungs. I didn't go into the hospital at all in high school or even college, but it was in probably sophomore year of college where I kind of hit a low with my lung function, which for me, I know compared to others is not that low, but I hit kind of that 80 mark. That was kind of a reality check for me. And that's also when they had found out that I had MAC in my lungs.
Were you, when you started to culture MAC and kind of live that as your normal, were you feeling it more, when you were running, was it harder to run and keep up and coughing up more? How was your health physically challenged with that?
Yeah, so I didn't notice much of a difference. I probably had it for about 6 years before we really saw any sort of impact, and it was in the summer of 2017, I believe, that I was losing weight, and I went into the hospital for the first time in November of 2017, and I knew I had a long road ahead.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, and I mean, everybody with CF is so different. So like, that was your reality. So you were dealing with it and it sucked. And so for people who don't know what MAC is, can you just give a brief rundown of what we're talking about?
It's Mycobacterium avium complex, and it's one of those bacteria that people with CF can share with each other, but you can also really get it from anywhere. You can get it from a shower head, so we don't know necessarily like how I got it, but it lives in your lungs, and it eventually kind of slowly creeps up and kind of affects lung function.
Let's talk about modulators a little bit.
That December of 2019 was a game changer for my life.
Yeah. So let's go salt first. When you would work out before modulators, were you super salty, salt lick? Like you start your own organic salt farm based on your crystals on your skin?
Yeah, and especially in the summer and at tournaments when I'm playing like a whole game, I would get dehydrated very easily also. But yeah, the caked on salt. I mean, I decided to rejoin a club frisbee team, which is kind of a higher level, last year. And I played in those same tournaments that I had played in previously, where I used to get dehydrated, couldn't finish a weekend, really had issues with it. And I did not have like one time of getting dehydrated. I wasn't as covered in salt as I used to be. I completely stopped coughing. There was no more mucus in my lungs. I wasn't constantly congested. Again, not getting dehydrated anymore. I've had so few sinus issues. I've been able to cut in half the amount of digestive enzymes that I'm taking. So it's just like the fact that I finally felt normal was great. Like what it's like to live life without coughing all the time was just insane to me. And I was like, this is why people can run faster than me, because I'm not coughing like constantly while I'm running anymore. And then it's also why I started the 65 Roses race, because I was like, why can't we have like a purely virtual race? I'm gonna try to get people with CF involved, make it what you want, but give us all a reason to kind of stay motivated together towards a goal. And I ran a 10-mile race the last 2 years for it, and I've seen some crazy drops in my pace both years, which has been amazing, before.
Isn't that the insanity from that? Like, sure, you can like take a deep breath, and on paper your PFTs are up, and your weight is stable, like all the things that our doctors look at to measure, but when you're the athlete with CF and you're like, oh my God, my pace is down 15 seconds, then 30 seconds, you're like, what is happening, right? And it's just because of this pill.
It's not just about like finishing anymore. It's like, what can I do that makes me faster, that makes me better? And that's actually what led me to the, better eating. What do I need to keep my body running, better? It's not all about just bumping up the calories anymore.
Right, which we're used to, right?
Yeah.
It's so fun to see that that's where we're heading with CF. The thing I've been thinking about and trying to talk more about is, as we age as a community, we're going to be facing type 1 or type 2 diabetes and heart disease and cancers, and exercise and diet are going to help prevent those, right, in the long run. So we were exercising for our lungs, but now we have to exercise for our future.
Yeah, exactly.
It is fun to watch what you're doing and eating and working out. When's the 65 Roses? When's the big race, the virtual race?
Yeah, so the event starts on March 5th, and the race weekend is May 7th and 8th. Because we do kind of like a 65 days, 65 miles is our general premise, to kind of get as many people involved as possible. We take walkers, runners, bikers, however people want to put those miles in. We want people to do that. But we do encourage people to kind of, aim for a higher goal if, more than 65 is something you can do. I think my first year I ran like 125 miles in that kind of 65-day period. And again, pushed myself to do a 10-mile race the last 2 years. So, love to see the goals that people are achieving during it. And it's really been more successful than I could have expected. So
as crappy as a CF diagnosis can be right now, parents Google it, but I hope they also come across people like you, because you're a light and a warrior, and it's just so awesome that you're out there doing what you're doing, dude. It's so fun. I appreciate it.